In this video, we will be learning about ratio and proportion. So let's answer first the motivational problem. So a chess set for white contains 8 pawns, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops, a queen, and a king. And what is the ratio of the number of queen to the number of pawns? Second, what is the ratio of the number of knights to the number of pawns? You can pause the video for you to answer the problem. Right? If you answered 1:8, then you are correct. Because 1 states for the number of queen and 8 states for the number of pawns. Now let's proceed to letter B. If you answered 2:8, and you are partly correct. Since 2 is represent the number of knights and 8 represent the number of pawns, and again 2:8 is not our final answer because we can still reduce that one into its equivalent and simplest form of ratio, and that is 1:4. Okay, so by definition, a ratio is the comparison of two quantities, say a quantity A and a quantity B, as A is to B. So it can be written in three ways. It could be in a word form, it could be column form, or a fraction form. And of course, it must always be expressed into its lowest term or the simplest form of the ratio. So in our example, the ratio of the number of queen to the number of pawn is 1:8. So then we can write that in either of the following. So it could be in a word form, 1:8. It could be in a column form, 1:8. And it could be in a fractional form, that is 1/8. Okay? So now let's move on to proportion. Below are the three types. You have the direct proportion, second, the partitive proportion, third is the inverse proportion. Now let's start with the direct proportion. It is characterized as one value increases, the other value also increases. Likewise, as one value decreases, the other value also decreases. That's why we call that as the direct proportion. So for example, every 3 cups of milk requires 5 cups of flour. If there are 20 cups of flour, then how many cups of milk are needed? So let's start with our solution. So the ratio is 3:5, given in the first statement that every 3 cups of milk requires 5 cups of flour. So you have there, of course, to remember that our numerator is the number of cups of milk and our denominator will be the number of cups of flour. For the direct proportion, on the right side of our equation must also follow the same format in our left hand side of the equation. So then our n is the number of cups of milk, and which is the unknown variable, and our denominator 20 is the number of cups of flour, which is given in the problem. So to get the value of n, we can do the cross multiplication of the given equation. And from that, we can multiply 3 times 20 equals 60, and 5 times n equals, and that will give us 5n equals 60. Alright? So next step is to isolate n. How to do that? Simply we just divide both sides by 5, and that will give us n equals 12. So therefore, it needs 12 cups of milk for 20 cups of flour. And that is our final answer. Next is the partitive proportion. It is used if a whole is divided into two or more unequal parts. For example, three siblings, Aldrin, Benji, and Cherry, will divide 1,000 pesos in the ratio of 2 is to 3 is to 5 respectively. So meaning 2 units for Aldrin, 3 units for Benji, and 5 units for Cherry. The question is, how much will Cherry get? So to solve this problem, we just simply add all the ratio. 2 plus 3 plus 5, and then that will give us 10. So that means out of 10 units, 2 units for Aldrin, 3 units for Benji, and 5 units for Cherry. So what's the use of the 10 units there? The 10 units is our divisor for the entire quantity given in the problem, which is 1,000 pesos. So then that is 1,000 pesos divided by 10, and that will give us 100 pesos. Meaning that 100 pesos per unit. Okay? For every unit, there is 100 pesos. So since Cherry has a share of 5 units, we simply multiply 1,000 times 5, and that is equivalent to 500 pesos. So that's it. So therefore, Cherry will receive 500 pesos. And that is our final answer. And that is an example for partitive proportion. So next is the inverse proportion. So it is characterized as an increase in one quantity results to a decrease in another quantity. So the word inverse. The other quantity increases, the other quantity decreases. And as well as if the other quantity decreases, the other one increases. Okay? So let's have here as our illustrative example. A tank of oil can be emptied in 16 minutes if one outlet valve is fully open. Then how long will it take to empty the tank if 4 outlet valves are fully open? Okay, again, a tank of oil can be emptied in 16 minutes if one outlet valve is fully open. And how long will it take to empty the tank if 4 outlet valves are fully open? In this problem, we need to make a table for us to summarize it easily. So you have there the number of outlet valve on our first column, and the second column would be in terms of time. And we know that in one outlet valve fully open, it takes 16 minutes to empty the tank. And if 4 outlet valves are fully open, we don't know how many minutes would it take. And that is our unknown variable. More outlet valve open, it is expected that lesser time consumed. So 1 to 4, okay, again, 1 is to 4, and then n is to 16. Take note of the arrow there that 1 is to 4, then n is to 16. So you are given there 1 over 4 is equals to n over 16. And that's how we made this equation using the inverse proportion. Then again, to solve for n, we shall cross multiply these given quantities. And that will give us 4n equals the next 16 is to isolate our n. Simply divide both sides by 4 and that will give us n equals 4. Therefore, it will take 4 minutes to empty the tank if 4 outlet valves are fully open. And that's it about ratio and proportion. Thank you for watching, and here is my reference for this presentation.